right, good morning, friends. Thanks for being here this morning. This is Journey Home Meditation, and this is the morning sit. It is a lovely morning today. And I am happy to be here, and I'm also I guess just a bit mid-level, right? I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but I'm somewhere in the middle of all of it, you know. Um, I think there's been a lot on my mind the last couple of days. Yesterday was an extremely exertive day. It was frustrating. There were moments in the day that was extremely frustrating. For those of you who may not know, the work that I do is peer support work. So I started off being a peer support specialist as a certified recovery mentor, but I've moved into bringing in different levels of my personal experience to create sort of a model of peer support that's a little different. Instead of just doing recovery support, I also have a strong focus on grief and grief support. So I work with my own organization, Journey Home Support Services, as well as other organizations such as Max's Mission, right? And a few other places where I will come in and hold grief groups. Max's Mission, I do so regularly. I also do levels of resource navigation, case management, peer support kind of duties in that role. Basically, whatever is in front of me with someone, if I can engage with them in a way that is assisting them in navigating the resources that they need, then that's what I'll do. And, you know, the most common thing that I hear from people when I talk about this work is people are like, oh, that must be really difficult, right? That must be really difficult work. And while I understand the question and I understand what people are saying, I think it's not always for the reasons that they believe it is. I think people hear, oh, you do grief support, you do death midwifery. This is very difficult things, and it's almost like they're apologizing or othering you, like saying, you know, I could never do that. That's really common. I could never do that work. And there's this assumption that it's difficult or trying or exhausting work because of the emotional component of working with someone in their discomfort, in their pain, in their most vulnerable and challenging times in their lives. And honestly, that's not it. That's not what's exhausting. That's not what is depleting or even the most challenging thing on a personal level that I deal with. This is actually the places where I can fully feel engaged and present with somebody. Right? I can feel present. I can feel that I am able to access and connect to parts of myself and compassion that I don't always get to access in other relationships. And that brings me to what is the most exhausting part of my job, is working with people who believe they're not suffering. working with people in jobs and positions of providing the resources that need to be navigated for the people who are aware, acutely aware of their suffering, and are seeking connections to help them meet their needs. And the most frustrating and difficult and challenging part of my day is when I'm up having to make these calls to people who have a way of being that upholds this idea that we have to dissociate. To do this work, we somehow have to dissociate, right? We compartmentalize. That's a big one is, at some point, capitalism has driven home this idea that to help someone, you cannot have an emotional connection to that person. You have to be shut down, cold, distant, all of these things. And it's so far from helpful and so far from the truth, and it is creating and has created one of the coldest and most vicious paradigms in our healthcare systems. And by that I mean it creates a feeling of impotency on the part of the person providing the service when they disconnect from their compassion and the reality that they're sitting with. And I know why we do it. I know why it happens. I know that people are terrified of forming emotional bonds with one another and emotional connections because there's this cultural meme that emotional connection is weakness. Even that vulnerability is weakness. Or that when you are emotionally connected, you are somehow not rational or reasonable. And it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. Because then that takes me, when I am working with people who are expressing that way of being, that way of believing and seeing our shared world, that it's a place to be separate from. And this mantra of this level of dissociation is, I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing my job. And it's really frustrating when most often that's not even the case. And anybody who has had to deal with the medical healthcare system of this country, the mental healthcare system of this country, the dental care system of this country, of the U.S., most people will tell you how extraordinarily frustrating these systems are to navigate. And I just don't know if anybody's actually asking why. I don't hear many people actually having the conversation of why is it so stressful to ask for help when you are in need and distress with medical needs, with mental health needs, with resource needs, housing, food, basic necessities that is by definition a need, right? Food, shelter, clothing, air. These things, touch, human touch, compassion, these things are human needs. And yet, our culture deems it okay for a person like Kylie Jenner to do a GoFundMe to become a billionaire. She actually had a GoFundMe to become a billionaire. And people paid into that. It's okay to have a Kickstarter for a macaroni salad, to create a macaroni salad or a potato salad, I think it was. And these are funny memes, and hundreds of thousands of dollars come in. It's okay to have a GoFundMe to pay for someone who has gunned down another human being in the streets, and this person can receive millions of dollars. But when it comes down to asking for help with a health crisis that you are in, it's simply not okay. And you're going to have to wait, and you have you are characterized as having entitlement, and it's deeply, deeply frustrating. And the most frustrating thing for me in the work that I do, sort of weaving in and out of those intersections of mental health, physical health, dental health, social health, economic health for people in our community, right? I'm sort of trying to stick and move, bob and weave or whatever it is, with people who are attempting to meet their needs. The most frustrating thing is that my compassion sometimes takes a back seat because of my frustration. Right? My frustration takes me into a place where it starts to override my compassion. And if I were to say, sometimes it's difficult to have compassion in my line of work. People who are unfamiliar with what I'm talking about might say, yeah, it's hard to have compassion for people who don't help themselves and things. And they might be referring to the people I'm working with. But that's not it. I find that I have the hardest time connecting to my compassion for people on the other end of the phone who I'm calling to connect to these resources. Isn't that interesting? That my compassion is diminished for people who seemingly have their needs met and are being obstinate in their jobs, right? These people that you talk to that, sir, there's nothing I'm going to do for you. There's nothing I'm going to do for this person. My hands are tied. I'm doing everything I can. And I'm finding it difficult to tap into my compassion sometimes when I'm doing this work. And I know that I have work to do there. Because in that conversation, when there's three of us, there's myself, there's the person I'm working with helping to navigate these resources who's expressing a need, and there's the person on the other end of the phone or across the desk who is gatekeeping that need and has the ability to help create change in this relationship, in this moment, and in doing so, create an extensive change throughout our culture, right? When you feed a person, you're not just giving a person food for that moment. You're helping that person be healthier, be more connected, be able to sustain their lives, and brings a bit of care into their life that then extends out to others. When you care for somebody who is unhealthy, unwell, if they're sick, that's a benefit to the greater culture and everyone around them. They have the ability now to be more gentle, more kind in their lives because they're not in pain every day. When you have the ability to connect someone into a home, you're not just helping that one person with shelter, you're also extending that to start to break generational poverty. All of these things benefit more than just the idea that one person is receiving. It benefits the person giving. It benefits the people in proximity. And when I cannot have compassion for the person that's gatekeeping that need, then I am really missing the opportunity to provide that care as well. Because that's the resource that I have to offer. I have compassion to offer. That's the resource that I can share. I know how to tap into my compassion. I know how to be present with my understanding. But I get so frustrated that it becomes challenging. It becomes challenging. I was on the phone with a person and she was clearly not interested in participating in helping this person that I'm working with, and she was not feeling capable of affecting change in her life. And she kept repeating, "There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do." And I was frustrated in that moment because I know that that's not the case. But she doesn't know that. She didn't know that she's not impotent to create positive change in this world. And even if it's only to be emotionally present for what's happening in that moment, that's a start. And that's the frustration, that when we abide by systems instead of relationships, we do our jobs really well, but we aren't doing the work. You see the difference there? I can excuse myself by saying, that's not my job. But is it your work to do? Is that the work that we're here to do today? And this brings me to the practice. Because I get wrapped up in this and I start to feel judgment for people. And I start to go into old patterns of behavior of, I feel like I am in opposition. I'm in contradiction, right? And now it's me against them. And these are small thoughts in my mind, but they do creep in. And I have to take a moment. When I take that moment to feel my own body, to feel what's happening inside of my own body, that's only when I take that moment, do I begin to feel what must be happening for this person. The fear, the frustration, that feeling of impotency, that there's nothing I can do. I can't affect any positive change right now. To live your life with that as a defensive shield to protect your fragile heart. How sad that makes me, for myself and for them and for all of us. And so the thing to do, I think, is to connect. I know you feel that you can't do anything, but maybe let's just sit here in silence for a moment together and just recognize that we are up against something that seems very large but is no bigger than just a few breaths. We're feeling stifled in our ability to bring positivity and love and kindness into the world because we feel like it's outweighed so much by the dangers of this world, the darkness in this world. But darkness does not extinguish light. It doesn't. Cold does not overpower heat. Right? It does not diminish it. And it's the belief that we are diminished that is the most frustrating and hardest thing for me to have compassion for, because I intimately know what it is to feel diminished. And I think there's a part of me that doesn't want to feel that. So it's hard for me to experience the empathy of feeling that with somebody else, to have that compassion, that shared suffering when it comes to things that I don't like to feel. And then I stop and I take a few breaths. So let's just do this right now. We don't have to always go into a deep silent meditation. Sometimes it's just a matter of shifting our breath in the moment. So the practice today is not going to be a close-eyed meditation. We're not going to move into a specific body posture. What I want to do today is I really want us to just focus on 3 breaths. Just 3 breaths. And I'm asking that we all, whoever's listening, take this moment to really, really focus on those 3 breaths. So let's start with the first one. And what we are going to do is bring all of our awareness into our nose, into the back of our throat, down into the belly, up into the chest. We're going to feel this flow of air, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Just breathing in. Taking time to feel when you hold the breath in and when you hold the breath out. And while you're breathing in and while you're breathing out, just stay with the feeling. Breathe in. Feel the belly rise, the chest fill, then the feeling of the chest falling, then the belly collapsing and contracting. Breathe in. And just return to natural breath. But feel what's happening in your physical body, your emotional body, and your thought body. Feel those different bodies of existence. And I call them each bodies because a body is an entire collection of things, right? You have a body of water, you have a body of work. Your body is more than just the part. It's all. So we're not feeling an emotion, we're feeling the emotional body that we carry. We're feeling the thought body, the mental body, the mindset, the information that we're processing through and filtering, the beliefs that we're holding on to or letting go of. These are all part of the mental body, the physical body, right? All of the places that we hold on to these feelings. And when we breathe that way, we start to open up access to different parts of our bodies. And in just 3 breaths, we can recollect and recognize I have been avoiding sitting with discomfort. I have been focusing on a goal at the end and missing the experience of the process. And the frustration, that's just the invitation in. It's okay. It's okay to be frustrated. Sometimes we have frustrating worlds that we experience. But it's an invitation to go in and say, hey, what's being tangled for you right now? Doesn't mean that it's not frustrating the way that our world is working. It doesn't mean that it's not frustrating to see fossil fuel economies destroying lives. It doesn't mean it's not frustrating to see huge multi-conglomerate corporations turning poison into things that look like food and convincing us all that it's okay to eat this stuff. It's frustrating. But that frustration that I feel with myself in relationship to it, that place that brings me into judgment of other people and judgment of myself and embarrassment and hiding and shame and fear, whatever it is about, that's my work. It's not my job. That's my work. My work is to try to discover ways to connect so that I can stay present. Because we're not here for very long. And that's something that I'm becoming more intimate with every day. Every day I learn of someone who is taking their journey or someone who has died. Every day I think about my family, some of whom are going to be dying sooner than others. Some may just all of a sudden not come home. And we don't know. And so instead of trying to extend my life by protecting myself, putting up these boundaries of fear and security, this false sense of security, the theater of security, I think what I would rather do is strengthen myself to be present with each moment, because in being present in each moment, I extend the life of that moment. The more I can be present with it, the more I can stay with it. And that's an extension of life. That's the fountain of youth, the secret to immortality. No, it's not. But, pardon me. But I'm going to take this moment as we close out for today's practice, today's morning sit together, to let you all know that this is, there we go. This is happening each morning on Zoom. And I would love to have you join in on the Zoom. And so to do that, you can find the links on the Facebook. Sometimes they don't show up. I'm not sure why. I'm having some issues, I guess. But I'm just going to announce the numbers now. The meeting ID will always be the same, 917-099-9561. And the passcode is BREATHE, BREATHE, and that's a capital B. I don't know if that matters on Zoom, but it's a capital B. And we meet Monday through Thursday at around 8:15 a.m. So if you want to join in on the Zoom, that would be lovely. I would love to start building a way for us to actually connect. We have the technologies to do this, so let's utilize them for more than just passively witnessing these things. Let's engage. Let's try to engage with each other just a bit. Because there's a lot to offer to each other. And there's a lot to be enriched with by sharing these kinds of spaces together. I feel enriched every day by just being able to do this, even if it's only one or two people that listen. That's okay. I feel connected that one or two people are engaging. But imagine what it is like when we are all participating in the enrichment of our experience of this world. If all of us can come together and share our practices, the things we've learned, the things we're learning, the things we struggle with, the things we've gotten really good at. So that's my invitation to you all. Thank you so much for being here today. You can email me at journeyhomemeditation@gmail.com, and you can check out everything we do here at Journey Home by going to www.journeyhome.care. That's journeyhome.care. That'll take you to our website. You can find a link on there for all of the past meditations. You can hear the whole archive that we have online on Spotify, Audible, and much of it is on YouTube or Twitch and Facebook. So, all right, Yale.